Hi everybody. In a previous video we looked at how we can manipulate the medium and the pigment, or the paint if you like, and we used watercolor in a very free way and allowed the color, if you like, to drop into the water and spread naturally and take its own course, which is a very beautiful way to use watercolor, and indeed other media as well, such as oil and acrylic. You let the medium have its say. In this video, I just wanted to have a look at how we can do a similar thing, but under more controlled circumstances, so that the paint is manipulated more slowly, more carefully, with a lot of control to make things, if you like, more structured. So there are these various ways that you can relate media and paint. You can have a lot of the medium, in other words, a lot of water, or a lot of oil or turpentine, and a little paint, which will spread very freely and create very soft illusions, if you like. Or you can have slightly less of the media, less water, less turpentine, and more concentrated paints and pigments. And therefore, when you draw that pigment across, it's a slower process. It's not flowing as freely. So you can control that more. So hopefully what I'm about to do will be interesting and useful to you. Okay, what I want to do here is use this idea of the relationship between medium and pigment, in other words, in this case, with the water, with the color, in order to create form, 3 dimensions, if you like. So what I've done is draw a very simple outline, leaf shape outline, very, very simple. But we have no real clarity as to the 3 dimensions of this. Is it bending back into space? Is it coming towards us, or whatever? And basically, all form is created through our understanding of light and shade. So we're going to think about that, but also think about this business of the relationship, how we can draw the pigment, the paint, if you like, into the medium, into the water, and allow us to create that. So we're combining our knowledge of what the paint does with our knowledge of light and tone, our understanding of that. Simply what I'm planning to do here is establish on this shape areas of dark, and from that I'm going to blend the light. That's simply it. So we often talk about using light first and then darker in watercolor, which is perfectly fine and acceptable. But there are times when you can actually use a reservoir of darker paint to feed the lighter areas. So in other words, you can put in a fairly dense area of paint, and then whilst it's wet or damp, you can encourage it into the rest, and that will provide the pigment, if you like, for the rest of the painting. So what I have here, I've mixed up some fairly deep green. It's a viridian, a little bit of crimson, I think a little bit of raw sienna in there as well. But basically I've decided what I'm going to do is apply an area of dark, leave an area, another area of dark, leave an area, and so on. So I've decided just to establish this end area here. So what I'm going to do is just occupy that. You can see with a fairly dense amount of paint. So just a big simple block of that paint there. So this is, if you like, my reservoir of paint. And of course, when I then rinse the brush, remove the paint, and really what we're dealing with is a brush with essentially water on it, you can see that what I'm doing here is melting that away. So I'm pulling the pigment away from that reservoir over into what I want to be the lighter area. So I'm pulling that over to a certain point where I'm saying, okay, that I don't want that to be as dark as that. So I'm rinsing the brush again. This time there's even less paint, clean water again in it. I'm drawing the pigment from this area over to this area. So in a sense, what I'm doing step by step is drawing the paint from light to dark. And if I want, you see I'm wiping the brush, removing the water, which allows me to stop the movement. I can go back. You can see here where there's a sort of a line. I can go back, tiny little bit of water, and again encourage that over from the dark area over to the light. So I'm making strokes this way all the time, just teasing that over, teasing that over. Wipe the brush, give it a little dip in the water, and just tease that across as well. And you can see gradually we're getting this tonal variation. And what I'll do now is establish another dark area. So I'll get a fairly heavy area of paint again into this section. So we'll just make a shape about there. So we're saying that perhaps this is a deep, the leaf has bent down into the depths, if you like. And we'll use this as our reservoir of colour to feed the rest. So we can rinse the brush again. Perhaps even start from this side, tease that across, tease that across. When we don't want to go any more, get rid of that paint. So the brush is clean now, rinse it in clean water, and we're beginning again this time with clean water on the brush. And we're teasing that across to the light side there. Then we can go to the other side and work over this way. So we can melt that away. The pigment, as you can see, is running towards that side because, as we said in the last video, the pigment needs to go somewhere, and it always will go where the medium is. So we've teased that across. Again, we've got paint on our brush, so I'm going to clean that and rinse the brush. So we go back in this time with a clean, damp brush. And again, you can see that beginning to run that way. And if I keep working that, I can create a fairly even gradation of colour all the way from light to dark to light. Then we can go back to this area, melt that away. So we're feeding off these dark areas all the time. And it's an alternative way to create light and shade. And in a sense, quite a controlled way to create a sense of light and shade in watercolour. So you can see that evening out a wee bit now. And again, I might even want to go back to this side, melt that away. Rinse the brush, tease that away, and then that line there, we'll just melt that as well. So basically we started with two dark areas, and those dark areas have provided us with all of the variations, if you like, that are going on with this, within this leaf shape. With a little light here, I could actually mop that away actually. So that's a pretty dry brush. I'm soaking away that area. So maybe I can create something more akin to a highlight along this area here if I wanted to. So you can see we're beginning to get some feeling of curvature, 3 dimensions if you like, in this leaf. In this image, I want to take this idea of using this reservoir of paint a little further and in an even more controlled way, just to let you see that it is possible to actually make quite a fine, controlled piece of work in this method, as well as the flowing free technique that I showed you in the previous video, which was a landscape with a big open sky and so on. Here we are looking at an image which is more accurate, if you like, more tighter sort of an image. And again, I've drawn out this very simple leaf form. But in this case, I'm aware that, as you know, we often get leaves which are almost blistered, almost lumpy, if you like. They're not a smooth, flat surface, that they have crumples and humps in them. So using a similar method of applying paint and drawing from that, what I want to do is try to make this leaf give some sense that it is crumply, if you like, rather than a smooth, glossy leaf. And basically, I'm aware, for instance, that in a leaf like this, they'll have a central little veins, if you like, and little cells of shape in between that, like almost a little honeycomb of shape. And I'm going to construct that using the same method. So in this case, I am using quite a small brush and a fairly heavy paint. You can see, if I show you here, you can see how dense the paint is on my hand there. So that's what I'm going to begin with and then draw from that. So what I'm going to do is apply a little of that dark paint in there, for example. Maybe another little bit in here. Then rinse the brush. I'm just doing this one section at a time in order to show you how this works, but now I'm cleaning the brush. The brush is slightly damp, not particularly wet, and I'm just teasing away, you can see that, into this sort of area here. And I'm going to clean the brush, give it a wee rinse, because remember that as I brush here, the clean brush will get dirtier. As I'm working right now, of course this brush is becoming dirtier, but tiny little marks you can see that I'm making, and you can see already the flow from dark out to light. So I can continue this idea. I can perhaps say, okay, and I am working when it's wet, so it might be more difficult, but let's say I have another area of dark right in here, another little cell if you like. Rinse the brush, wipe it slightly, but with damp, clean water, tease the paint away from the reservoir of dark, and you can see that we have another cell appearing there. I'll put another dark area here. It may bleed. I mean, ideally I would wait till it dries a little bit more, but if you're careful you can do this. You can see there this little dark area here. Rinse brush. So we've got our paint on. Now we're going to work with the paint with this clean, damp. You can see a little bit of water coming off the brush, melting the edges away, pulling it gently, bit by bit, towards the direction I wanted to go. You can see that I'll stop there, wipe the brush, get some more nice dense paint on. Maybe while these are drying, we'll work over here. We'll create a sort of a cell in there if you like. Drop that in, rinse brush, clean it up. Again, just melt this away. And it can be very satisfying once you get moving with it. You can create, for instance, I could create this triangular area here as one big area. So let's say if I wanted that to be one fading out from dark to light. So again, there's my reservoir. Here's my brush melting the paint away out to the edges of that there. Again, if I think I want to get lighter, clean the brush because there's too much paint, wipe the brush, back to clean water in the brush, and just melt that on out to the edge here. I can do it, if you like, on this side as well, so I can maybe go in here very carefully. I could leave the little light line and then I can colour it in later if I wanted to. Because very often the veins on leaves, they're not dark, they're maybe lighter colour, maybe in the autumn or whatever. So there's my reservoir, there's my water. Melt the paint towards the water. We'll take that on out towards the edge there, and then with clean water I can melt it out practically till it's white, just off white. You can see, so you can see different methods of creating lumps and bumps and structure in leaves, and indeed anything that has that sort of structure. So you can see how it's possible to create form, if you like. Also, you often have situations where you have little indentations in things. So if you think about how the light behaves in this case, you might have an indented cell. So you might have a darker area here and around the edge. I'm just creating this almost like a little rectangle. So dark area across the top on that side. Then with my clean water, just tease away the middle section. So melt that away. And you can see that there's an illusion beginning to happen there. That is, you could put your finger down into a little hole because there's shadow on that side and light on the other. That looks slightly different to these, which look like they're raised, that they're coming out towards us. This one slightly looks as if it could be going back in. In other words, I've punched a hole through that paper. And all of these illusions are based on light and dark. the control of light and dark. And the control of light and dark is based on our control of the medium. So here's basically where I've continued to work on that little example, and I just almost get carried away with additional little cells, and but following the same process, applying the paint, drawing it away, applying the paint in a little reservoir, drawing it away, and as one colour went over another, it builds up this very rich sense of wrinkliness in a leaf. Now, I know that botanically this is not very accurate because I invented it, but I hope that what it does is create that sense of scrumpliness and three-dimensional quality, and that sense of roughness and light and shade. And it also shows you that with watercolour you can go down to fairly rich, deep colours and get some lovely senses of reality as well. Hopefully you found that demonstration useful and interesting. I think the most important thing is that we are aware of the fact that paints and mediums, I should say, can be used in various ways, various proportions. So lots of media, lots of water, lots of turpentine will flow the paint quickly. Less medium will move the paint slower and in a more controlled way. So don't overdo the medium, don't overdo the water if you want something controlled. Likewise, if you want perhaps a big open sky with lots of clouds flowing around, then use more water or more turpentine if it's oil paints that you're using. So keep that in mind, and keep in mind what is really happening to the paint when you use it. It's little particles of dust colour, if you like little pebbles, little sand pebbles, which have been washed around. Think of it like that, by water or by oil or whatever the medium is, and imagine them being washed up on the beach. And so you are dragging those little pebbles around. So if you have lots more water, the pebbles will go further and thinner. If you don't have so much water, they'll stay in a clump and they'll stay dark or more intensely coloured. So hopefully that was of use, and I'll see you again.